This is Death by Henbane Tea, a hilarious feel-good cozy mystery, Island Whodunnit Book 4. Written by Tess Marlowe and narrated by Sarah Smith. Chapter 1. Alex had exactly 3 goals that afternoon: enjoy the beach, finish her latest book, and keep Reg from trying to get Bombay to wear sunglasses again. 2 out of 3 wasn't bad. They were lounging on their usual patch of sand. Alex half reclined with a paperback. Reg leaned back against a driftwood log with one ankle crossed over the other, while Bombay pranced in the waves.
For the record,
Reg said, tilting his head toward the waves,
if every single day for the rest of my life is like this one, I would never complain.
Alex didn't look up.
You say that every time. And yet, we still somehow end up interrogating or sleuthing.
Bombay stomped onto the towel and shook off half the ocean off his black fur. The phone buzzed. Reg groaned.
Nope. No, don't pick up.
Alex checked the screen.
It's Shannon.
Especially if it's Shannon. That girl's a trouble magnet.
Alex answered.
Hey, Shan. What's going on?
Shannon didn't bother with pleasantries.
Can you come to Ms. Belvedere's place? She's a wreck. Someone broke into her unit while she was at the supermarket. Took her jewelry, some cash, even her botanical journals. She's rattled and kind of spiraling.
Is she hurt?
Alex asked, already sitting up.
No, just shaken. But if you could talk to her in your calming therapist voice, it would really help.
I'm on my way,
Alex said, and hung up. Reg groaned again, louder this time.
So much for peas.
She's shaken, and she's not exactly young, Reg.
Alex said, slipping on her sandals.
I'm not saying we shouldn't go.
Reg stood up and brushed off his shorts.
I'm just saying one of these days, someone's gonna call us with good news. Like, hey, a puppy showed up. He's very cute, and there are no bodies.
Bombay rose, stretched, and wagged his tail. He was clearly ready to investigate. Alex gave Reg a sidelong look.
You coming because you care, or because you don't trust me to walk into danger without backup?
Reg shrugged.
Bit of both. Also, I love you. Which continues to be wildly inconvenient.
She smiled.
Flattery gets you lunch.
I was hoping for drinks first, but fine.
Miss Belvedere's ground floor unit was exactly as Alex remembered it, pristine, fragrant, and aggressively well-labeled. Each potted plant bore a handwritten name tag, as if the crotons and hibiscus might forget who they were without constant botanical reinforcement. A small metal sign beside the door still read, "No shoes, no noise, no nonsense." Alex knocked gently. Shannon opened it halfway, her face pinched with concern.
She's inside on the couch. I made her chamomile tea. I don't think it's helping.
They stepped in. The interior was neat to the point of obsession. Books alphabetized, coasters aligned, furniture placed at mathematical angles. Nothing was out of place, but it still felt like something was missing. Miss Belvedere sat stiffly on the edge of the couch, hands clenched in her lap. The cloud of violet-hued silver hair seemed smaller than usual. Her mouth was set in a line so thin it could cut paper.
I just wanted to get some groceries,
She said without greeting.
Was away for about 40 minutes. Came back to this insult.
Alex sat beside her and switched on her therapist voice.
Take a deep breath, Miss Belvedere. Start wherever you like.
They took my grandmother's brooch, all my rings, my seed collection from Colombia, and my journal,
She added, voice cracking.
my annotated volume on hybrid hibiscus propagation, 37 years of notes.
I'm so sorry,
Alex said, gently placing a hand on hers.
but I want you to notice something. You're safe. You weren't home when it happened. That matters.
Miss Belvedere blinked, eyes glistening.
I suppose I should be grateful they didn't take the TV. I will go crazy in silence.
Reg crouched near the bookshelf.
No forced entry?
None.
Shannon said.
All the locks were still locked when she go home. No windows are broken. It's like someone just walked through the walls.
Did you call Mendoza?
Alex asked quietly.
I texted Lucian.
Shannon replied.
He said he and Mendoza are en route.
Reg stood.
You have any idea who might have done this, Ms. B? Anyone who's been acting strange lately?
She shook her head slowly.
This is a gated community, Reginald. We are supposed to feel safe. I thought Isla Lirio was a haven. I'm not so sure anymore.
Alex squeezed her hand.
I know it's upsetting, but you did everything right, and Mendoza's good. She'll get to the bottom of it.
Ms. Belvedere inhaled slowly and looked at them both.
You helped bring that horrible woman, Maritza, to justice, and found who killed poor Javier.
She sat up straighter.
So, even though I have full faith in Detective Mendoza, would you consider helping her?
Reg groaned.
We've got a reputation now, huh? Is it already time to apply for a private investigator's license?
Alex raised an eyebrow.
Are you actually considering that?
Reg snorted.
No way in hell. My army pension's good enough.
Miss Belvedere managed a thin smile.
Still, I would feel so much better knowing that you two are around. Is it so much to do for an old lady?
Reg rolled his eyes.
All right, Ms. B. We'll do what we can.
Bombay gave a low woof, tail thudding once against the entryway rug. Shannon glanced out the window.
That'll be Lucian and Mendoza. They just pulled up.
Alex stood and offered Miss Belvedere a reassuring smile.
Let's get the full story to them, and we'll stick around for moral support. I promise.
Almost 50 and still getting guilt-tripped by grandmas, aren't we?
Reg muttered into Alex's ear.
Blame it on good upbringing.
Chapter 2. Mendoza entered the unit looking extremely annoyed, like she was interrupted mid-sandwich. Lucian trailed behind her, a compact fingerprint kit tucked under one arm and an iced coffee in the other.
Good afternoon.
Mendoza said, scanning the room.
Where was the point of entry?
There wasn't one.
Reg nodded toward the front door.
Locked when she left. Locked when she came back.
No sign of tampering on the windows or back door either.
Alex added. Lucian set down his drink and snapped on a pair of gloves.
Well, let's pretend we're in an actual crime procedural. Dusting for prints, just like the movies.
Reg raised an eyebrow.
Aren't you our new cyber crimes guy? Since when do you do physical evidence?
Lucian shrugged.
It's either budget cuts or half the department's on vacation. I'm the new guy. I drew the short straw by default.
Mendoza exhaled through her nose.
This is the 7th burglary in 4 weeks. Same MO every time. No signs of entry, no forced locks, and only small valuables taken. Plus, we've got side order of credit card fraud on the island, so life is grand.
You think they are connected?
Alex asked.
I don't know yet. Both types of crimes are all over the island. North Shore, harbor villas, boardwalk apartments.
Locals or expats?
Reg asked.
Both. No real pattern except this. Every place hit has a woman living there. Some alone, some with family, but never just men.
That hung in the air for a beat.
Creepy.
Shannon said quietly.
Creepy and smart.
Mendoza added.
They're choosing soft targets, watching routines, slipping in and out like they've got master keys. We've even got victims who don't realize they were robbed until they check their credit statements.
Lucian moved to the bookshelf, dusting the ceramic drawer handles.
Whoever did this wore gloves. No prints on the windows or door. I'll check the jewelry case next.
Good luck.
Miss Belvedere called from the couch.
That case was cleaner than my soul on church Sundays.
Mendoza approached her with a notepad.
Ms. Belvedere, I'm going to ask a few questions, okay?
She nodded.
Of course, Angela.
Mendoza blinked. Miss Belvedere blinked back.
I mean, detective. Of course, detective.
A tiny smile tugged at Mendoza's lips.
Either works.
Alex sat beside her again while Reg hovered nearby. Bombay sniffed politely around a potted bird of paradise. Mendoza clicked her pen.
Ms. Belvedere, has anyone new been to your place recently? Delivery people? Unexpected visitors?
Miss Belvedere gave a soft scoff.
New? No, just the usual suspects.
She began ticking them off on her fingers.
The postman, who still insists on folding my magazines like some kind of anarchist. My water delivery boy. Sweet enough, though he always smells funny. And Julio came Monday to trim the hedges, but he's been pruning my garden since before Reginald had gray hair.
Reg blinked.
I don't have gray hair.
She waved him off.
Yes, none of us do. And there was that girl from the community board. Came by to stick up flyers for Portuguese classes. Nice enough, but chewed gum the whole time like a metronome.
Lucian looked up from the bookshelf, mildly horrified.
You remember all of that?
I remember everything.
Miss Belvedere said matter-of-factly.
That's why this is so upsetting. No one odd. No one new. No one suspicious.
Mendoza glanced at Alex.
So it's someone familiar or someone blending in with the crowd.
Alex nodded.
That actually tells us a lot.
Mendoza gave Ms. Belvedere's hand a gentle squeeze.
Try not to worry. You've got good neighbors. We're going to figure this out.
Miss Belvedere looked at Alex and Reg.
Yes, I've been told these two have a nose for trouble.
Bombay wagged. Reg smiled politely.
If it's trouble you've got, ma'am, consider it on borrowed time.
Texan charm.
Alex muttered, folding her arms. Reg gave her a sidelong grin.
Better than Texan chaos.
Mendoza stood.
Alex, Reg, could you do me a favor? Quietly ask around the compound. See if anyone's noticed weird card charges, small things missing, or any recent visits from repairmen they didn't schedule.
You think they're casing the place through a service?
Alex asked.
I think they're smart enough to exploit routine. People open their doors too easily to someone holding a clipboard.
Alex nodded.
We'll keep it subtle.
Subtle is overrated. We'll keep it friendly.
Lucienne returned from the bedroom holding a used tissue in an evidence bag.
Only fingerprint I found was yours, Miss Belvedere. You may be cleared as a suspect.
Darn,
she said, irritated.
I was going to flee the country and start over as a rebellious greenhouse matron.
Shannon smiled faintly, stepping in.
You're going to be okay. I'll stop by tonight to check on you.
Miss Belvedere sighed.
I'll make margaritas. Though I'm not even sure I should drink.
You'll be all right.
Shannon smiled. As they started to file out, Lucian tilted his head toward her.
I'll see you tonight.
Shannon blushed immediately.
Yes, you will.
Alex arched an eyebrow. Reg paused halfway through, slipping on his sunglasses.
You two?
Alex asked, eyes twinkling.
Is this an actual date?
Shannon tucked a frizzed curl behind her ear, blushing.
Yes, he made a reservation. Somewhere with chopsticks and mood lighting.
Sushi?
Reg asked.
Fancy.
New place by the marina. Minimal seating. Obnoxious plating. Perfect first date location.
Are you bringing a bouquet of USB sticks instead of flowers?
Reg deadpanned.
No,
Lucian said, mock-offended.
it's encrypted.
Alex laughed.
Be nice, both of you. Shannon, have fun. And don't let him talk about data breaches over dinner.
No promises.
Shannon said, grinning. Bombay wagged his tail like he too approved. As the group stepped back into the sunlit courtyard, the warm breeze carried the scent of frangipani into the early evening. Isla Lirio was paradise, sure, a paradise with a lockpicker. Chapter 3. Lucien showed up at the sushi bar dressed like he was meeting the commissioner for a debrief. Black-collared shirt, tucked-in khakis, and what looked suspiciously like polished shoes, on San Malvino in June. Shannon blinked.
Did you come from a job interview, or is this your undercover island ranger look?
I thought, you might appreciate neatness.
He said, shifting the small bouquet in his hand. 3 tiny sunburned roses wrapped in what looked like butcher paper.
They're adorable,
She said, plucking them from his hand with a smile.
So are you. Come on, let's go inside before the humidity frizzes my hair. I made an effort too.
Lucien sat stiffly, adjusting his silverware even though no food had arrived yet.
I haven't done this much. Dating, I mean.
Me neither.
Shannon said with a wink.
Trusting someone after Javier was pretty hard.
Lucien looked horrified.
Relax, I trust you. You are the law enforcement.
He laughed finally. A soft, relieved laugh that made him seem even younger. He reached for his menu, then put it down.
I memorized it last night, just in case.
You memorized the menu?
She asked, delighted.
I didn't want to look indecisive.
That is the most adorably neurotic thing I've ever heard.
Lucian blushed so hard she had to pretend to be fascinated by the specials board to give him a break. They placed their order, the biggest sushi set, and sipped on their wine while Shannon regaled him with tales of tourists asking if the island had Uber.
Some woman tried to pay the ferry captain with Apple Pay,
She said.
He said, and I quote, "I only accept cash or fish."
Lucian grinned.
I'd accept fish, depending on the fish.
He was loosening up, finally. His shoulders had dropped a half-inch. Shannon leaned in, resting her chin on her palm.
So, why criminal forensics? Why not, I don't know, work in a startup or something less murdery?
Lucian opened his mouth to answer, but was cut off by a voice from 2 tables over.
I don't feel well.
They both turned. A young woman, maybe mid-20s, sun-kissed, wearing oversized sunglasses and a pineapple print sundress, was gripping the edge of her table. Her friends, all women, were frozen mid-laugh. Then the woman swayed, her sunglasses slipped, and before anyone could react, she dropped. Straight to the floor. Her chair clattered, iced tea spilled, and someone screamed. Shannon was on her feet in 2 seconds. Lucian followed, automatically clearing their plates to the side. A nearby waitress dropped her notepad and ran. By the time they reached the group, the woman was flat on her back. One of her friends, a brunette with a sharp ponytail, was already kneeling beside her, hands shaking as she started CPR.
She said she was dizzy and then...
The woman gasped, pressing down on the girl's chest with too much force and too little rhythm. Another woman was on her phone, voice high and cracking.
Yes, we need an ambulance. Now. The sushi bar at the marina. She's not breathing.
Lucian crouched beside the woman, doing compressions.
I'm trained. May I?
She hesitated, then nodded and shuffled back on her knees. Lucien took over with quiet precision. Shannon hovered beside him, scanning the scene. Everyone gathered around them. The woman's skin started to turn blue.
I think she is dead.
Lucian murmured, mostly to himself. The crowd around them thickened. A waiter tried to keep people back with a tray. Sirens wailed faintly in the distance. On San Malvino, that meant help would arrive in about 5 minutes, maybe more if the ambulance had to dodge mopeds. Lucien kept going. Steady, controlled compressions. He glanced at Shannon once, just briefly. Enough to say this doesn't feel right. By the time the EMTs rushed in, 2 locals in neon orange vests and cargo shorts, Lucian had stopped CPR. One of them took a quick pulse. The other shook his head.
Time of death, 8:23 p.m.
One said quietly, making a note. Gasps and murmurs rippled through the patio.
She was just talking to us,
said one of the ladies from the dead woman's table, now hugging herself.
We were just laughing about frozen margaritas a minute ago.
She didn't eat anything weird,
said the one who had tried CPR.
She barely touched her salad.
Shannon and Lucien stepped back as the medics began to cover the body with a black tarp.
She was on vacation,
someone said softly.
From North Carolina.
Lucian wiped his hands with a napkin. His palms were shaking now. Shannon slipped her arm through his.
You did everything right.
He nodded once, but neither of them looked convinced. Detective Mendoza arrived even more irritated than before. She had that look on her face, like she was single-handedly fighting crime on the island and losing.
The date is over,
she said, striding up to Lucian.
Secure the scene.
Lucian straightened automatically, nodding once before moving to block the outer patio with a row of chairs and a "closed for private event" sign he borrowed from a waiter's trembling hands. Mendoza looked around. Her eyes were sharp, scanning every face, every uneaten plate and dropped fork. Shannon gave her a polite half-wave.
You think it's a murder?
Mendoza didn't answer right away. Her gaze settled on the woman under the tarp, now surrounded by weeping restaurant-goers and one extremely nervous-looking seagull.
When a healthy-looking woman in her 30s drops dead mid-forkful in a crowded cafe, I don't assume coincidence.
She turned sharply and marched toward the small cluster of women still seated at the dead woman's table, shocked, red-eyed, and clinging to each other like they might fall apart if someone moved. Mendoza flipped open her notebook.
Ladies, I need your names and a few facts.
A middle-aged woman with short platinum hair and a pastel linen wrap looked up, blinking tears.
We were at our book club,
She said.
We met earlier today at Elizabeth's place. A few of us decided to go out for dinner afterward. This place just opened. We thought we'd treat ourselves.
Mendoza's pen moved quickly.
The deceased?
The platinum-haired woman nodded toward the body.
Her name was Ellie Parsons. We're cousins, visiting from Charlotte. This was her first trip in years. We were celebrating.
Her voice cracked on the last word, and one of the others reached across to squeeze her hand.
She was so happy,
Another said through tears.
She joked this island might cure her of deadlines and dating apps.
Did anything strange happen today?
Mendoza asked, her voice steady but not unkind.
No.
Said a woman with bright orange hair and a trembling chin.
We had tea at the book club, went for a walk, and got here around 7.
She didn't even finish her salad,
Someone added.
We thought maybe the heat got to her.
Mendoza gave a tight nod and motioned to Lucian.
Get everyone's names, phone numbers, and island addresses if local. Anyone staying at a hotel, get the room number.
Lucien pulled out a small form pad and got to work. His voice was calm, efficient. Murder adjacent or not, this was his element now. Mendoza headed inside. Shannon followed a few paces behind, stopping just short of the kitchen doors as Mendoza pushed through them like a woman on a mission, with zero patience. Inside, the small open kitchen was all gleaming steel. A thin man in a white shirt and branded apron was pacing near the fridge, eyes darting between the prep station and the dish sink like he expected the health inspector to leap out from either.
I'm the owner,
He said the second Mendoza stepped in.
Sergio Rivas. We just opened last week. This is a disaster. We have reservations for the whole month. Press a TikTok food critic is coming next Friday.
That is unfortunate.
Mendoza said flatly.
Until the coroner rules out poisoning, I'm shutting this place down.
Sergio's mouth dropped open.
That means everyone in the kitchen stays on the island, but the restaurant stays closed. No prepping, no deliveries, no sneak openings through the back patio. Got it?
He nodded, speechless. A line cook dropped a spoon. No one picked it up. Mendoza turned on her heel and brushed past Shannon on the way out. Back on the patio, Lucian was collecting the last of the witnesses' information. Shannon stood nearby, arms crossed against the growing evening breeze. Someone had turned off the music, but she still heard the echo of the faint Latin jazz that had been playing when it all started. Lucienne returned to her side.
That's everyone.
What happened to her?
She asked, keeping her voice low.
I don't know yet, but it wasn't heat stroke. Or bad shrimp. People don't just drop dead that fast.
They watched as the coroner's van pulled into the alley beside the bar. Lucian exhaled slowly.
It's going to be a long night. Reports, statements, toxicology, chain of custody on every plate, and Mendoza is already cranky.
Shannon touched his arm.
Want me to stay?
Lucien gave a faint smile.
No, it's already late. Besides, you promised Ms. B you will check on her.
Right. I completely forgot about that.
Then it's good you have me to remind you.
She hesitated, then leaned up to kiss his cheek.
You did good, Lucian.
His ears turned pink instantly, but he didn't flinch. Chapter 4. Alex had just dropped 3 cubes of ice into her glass of sparkling water when someone knocked on the door.
Bet you 5 it's Shannon.
Reg said, not looking up from his crossword puzzle. Bombay, curled at the foot of the couch, let out a soft woof, his version of confirmed. Alex opened the door to find Shannon standing, arms folded with that distinct look of someone whose date did not end with dessert.
Come in,
Alex said, motioning her inside. Shannon dropped into the armchair with a loud sigh. Reg looked over the top of his reading glasses.
That bad, huh? Did he talk about code encryptions?
No, the date was...
Shannon shook her head.
The date was actually lovely. He was funny and surprisingly charming. He wore a button-down shirt with actual buttons.
Alex smiled.
So, what's with the, I just saw a ghost energy?
Shannon exhaled slowly.
Because I kind of did.
Reg raised an eyebrow.
Please tell me this is a metaphor.
It's not. A woman 2 tables down from us collapsed and died on the spot.
Alex froze mid-sip.
You're kidding, right?
Shannon shook her head.
It was horrible. So young, maybe 30. They were a small group. Her cousin said they'd gone to a book club that afternoon, then decided to get sushi. They all seemed totally normal. No drama, no weird vibes.
Let me guess. She had the raw tuna?
She barely touched anything,
Shannon said, ignoring him.
didn't even order sushi. Just drank water, picked at her lettuce, and said, "I don't feel well," then collapsed.
Reg leaned back in his chair.
See? This is why I don't trust all those fancy restaurants.
Alex looked concerned.
What happened after?
Lucian stayed behind to help Mendoza. She arrived just after the paramedics. Everyone was in shock. Now they are taking statements. We were supposed to get gelato afterward.
She shook her head.
Did not feel like a gelato night.
Alex sat down beside her.
I'm so sorry, Shannon. That's traumatic, even for this island.
I thought the robberies were bad enough.
Shannon said, glancing around.
Now we've got collapsing tourists?
Even for San Malvino, this is a rough week. Any idea what the woman's name was?
Ellie something? I think she was visiting from North Carolina. Flew in for a vacation 2 days ago.
Reg leaned forward.
So, a healthy young woman dies suddenly in public. No known illness, no cause of death, and she didn't eat anything sketchy.
Shannon frowned.
You think it's connected to the break-ins?
I don't believe in coincidences, especially not on San Malvino.
Too soon.
Shannon said, rubbing her temples.
But also, same.
Alex sat quietly for a moment, letting the pieces stir.
You said she went to a book club?
Shannon nodded.
Yeah, I think her cousin dragged her to it. I didn't catch the name, but they were all women, seemed tight-knit, mid-30s to early 50s. Nothing weird stood out, except now, one of them is dead.
You know anyone who might have gone to that club?
Alex asked. Shannon blinked.
Actually, I can ask my students tomorrow. A few of them always carry around books.
Please do. If we can get a name, we can start connecting dots.
Shannon rose from the armchair and headed for the door.
Thanks for letting me decompress. I'll go check on Miss Belvedere now.
Anytime. Call if you need anything. And text Lucian that we approve of his restaurant choice, just not the ambiance.
Reg added,
And tell him next time he should pick a place where people don't keel over between appetizers.
I'll pass it along,
Shannon said dryly. 2 minutes later, Shannon knocked gently and waited, already hearing the faint clink of ice in glass from inside. The porch light flickered once, and then the door swung open. Miss Belvedere stood in a matching lavender housecoat and slippers, just a shade darker than her hair, holding a mason jar filled with lime slices and something suspiciously clear.
You made it,
she said, stepping aside.
And before the ice finished melting, come in. You're letting the cold air out.
Shannon smiled weakly and stepped inside.
Thanks. I didn't want to intrude.
Nonsense,
Miss Belvedere said, gesturing toward the armchair.
You can intrude all you want. If it wasn't for you today, I would have probably lost it.
She poured Shannon a glass of margarita.
So tell me the news.
I don't know if this counts as news,
Shannon said, sinking into the seat.
It's more disturbing.
Miss Belvedere eased herself onto the sofa and crossed her legs like someone bracing for a story.
It's true, isn't it? That girl who collapsed at the sushi bar tonight, dead on the spot.
Shannon nodded.
Yeah, I was there, on a date, actually.
Miss Belvedere's eyebrows shot up.
And it wasn't the man who died? How shocking.
Shannon cracked a small smile.
No, he survived. We didn't even make it to the main course.
Miss Belvedere took a long sip from her glass.
Well, go on. I've only heard the skeleton of it. Something about a tourist. Very sudden, tragic, and sushi-related.
Her name was Ellie,
Shannon said softly.
Young, maybe 30, visiting her cousin from States. They were having fun, and then she just dropped.
Miss Belvedere's face fell.
Ellie Parsons? Clarissa's cousin?
Shannon blinked.
You knew her?
I didn't know her,
Miss Belvedere said quickly.
But Clarissa, lovely girl, very expressive eyebrows, mentioned last week that her cousin was visiting the island. First real vacation in years, she said. She was looking forward to showing her around. Poor woman, what a way to go.
She said they were at a book club today?
Miss Belvedere nodded.
Yes. I usually go myself, but I missed today's meeting thanks to that burglary circus. Between the detectives and the fingerprint dust, I barely had time to eat something.
Do you know who runs the club?
Elizabeth.
Miss Belvedere said with a flutter of her hand.
British. Grand opinions. Treats book discussion like it's a NATO summit. She's the one who started it years ago. Claimed the island was suffering from intellectual atrophy.
Shannon raised an eyebrow.
Is it a big group?
About 20 regulars. Sometimes more if someone brings a friend or we're reading a book with a Netflix tie-in. You know how people are about scandalous miniseries.
And you like it?
I love it.
Miss Belvedere said.
I mean, half the books are insufferable, but the company's good. Smart women, interesting conversations. Plus, there's usually tea and a baked good or two. It's the only place on the island where I can talk about Agatha Christie and hear someone's divorce drama in the same hour.
Shannon smiled.
Sounds fun.
Miss Belvedere looked down into her glass.
I keep thinking, if I hadn't been dealing with the burglary, I would have been at that book club. Probably went to that sushi bar.
Shannon placed a hand gently on her arm.
But you weren't. And I'm glad. You're okay. That matters.
Miss Belvedere sniffed.
Yes, well, it doesn't feel lucky. It feels like I missed something important. Clarissa was so excited, or her cousin's visit, had so many plans, and now this.
Shannon stayed quiet for a long beat.
Did Clarissa tell you anything else about Ellie?
Oh, yes. She said Ellie was excited to meet new people. Calm her nerves down, decompress. Not that this island has been calm lately.
Shannon sat back slowly. The ice cubes in Miss Belvedere's glass shifted with a clink.
I should get going,
she said gently.
You need rest. But thank you for talking.
You know me,
Miss Belvedere said with a small smile.
If I can't sleep, I can at least speculate.
Shannon stood and gave her shoulder a squeeze.
You're not alone, okay? We'll figure this out.
Miss Belvedere hugged her back.
Thanks for checking on me. And keep me updated.
Something's not sitting right, Shannon thought as she stepped into the night. Chapter 5. Alex and Reg strolled across the street with Bombay trotting happily beside them, ears perked and tail waving like a flag. The warm breeze carried the distant sizzle of something frying, probably shrimp from the neighbor's grill. Miss Bower's old villa looked much the same, cracked stucco, bougainvillea still choking the trellis, but the front garden had been freshly weeded, and a cheery yellow mailbox now stood in place of the faded blue one. Marta opened the door before they could knock. She wore light blue scrubs and a high ponytail.
Well, if it isn't the island's unofficial private investigators,
she said, grinning.
Come in. I was just making iced tea.
Alex smiled.
We owe you a housewarming gift. But as always, we're snooping around.
Let me guess,
Marta said, stepping back to let them in.
Ms. Belvedere got hit, and now you're connecting dots.
Yup,
Reg said, nodding.
Clean job. No signs of entry, nothing big taken, just all the jewelry and her notes.
Oof, not the notes.
That one hit her hardest.
Alex confirmed. Marta led them to the shaded patio, where 3 mismatched chairs surrounded a glass-top table already sweating under a pitcher of tea. Bombay flopped down gratefully onto a patch of cool tile.
So,
Marta said, pouring with the efficiency of someone who's served on too many night shifts.
You want to know if I've seen anything weird.
That, or if anything's shown up on your card statements that you didn't authorize.
Alex said.
I'd love to help,
Marta said, sinking into her seat.
But between the movers, the furniture guys, and the guarding crew, I've had more strangers in here than the ER on a full moon. I wouldn't know an intruder from a delivery man.
Reg tilted his head.
Movers with clipboards. Classic cover.
Exactly.
Marta nodded.
But I'll go through my receipts. If someone snuck in a fake delivery and charged me for it, they will regret it.
Appreciate it,
Alex said.
And for what it's worth, Miss Bower would have loved that you're living here.
Marta's face softened.
It felt right. The villa was sitting empty because people were scared of the dead grandma's ghost. But I figured, if the proceeds go to the nursing school and I get good neighbors, why not? Besides, Elfrida hated superstition.
Bombay barked once softly.
She also liked dogs.
Marta added, reaching down to scratch behind his ears. They chatted a few more minutes, then promised to check in once Marta had a chance to dig through her invoices. Their next stop was 2 houses down, a buttercream-colored bungalow with too many wind chimes and a rainbow flag fluttering in the breeze. Alex rang the bell. A woman in her 60s answered the door wearing a bright yellow sundress with a golden retriever puppy tucked under one arm.
"You're the ones who found that body last time, aren't you?"
she said without introduction. Reg blinked.
Probably.
Depends which body.
Alex added.
"I'm Liza,"
the woman said.
"and this is Captain Waffles."
Captain Waffles yawned and licked Bombay's ear.
We're asking neighbors if anything's lately felt off. Strange deliveries? Weird charges?
"Now that you mention it,"
Liza said,
"I did get a weird charge last week. Some international flower shop said I ordered 7,000 Egyptian pounds worth of henbane seeds. I don't even do gardening."
Did you report it?
Reg asked.
"My niece took care of it."
Liza waved a hand.
"She's a lawyer in Miami." "Terrified the crap out of them."
Alex smiled.
Anyone odd come to your door lately?
"I'm always getting people,"
Liza said.
"Friends, delivery guys, pool maintenance, trainer for Captain Waffles here."
We'll take that as a soft, maybe.
Reg said. Liza winked.
"I'll check my statements again just in case. I'm not known for financial vigilance."
They rounded the corner toward the unit at the end of the lane, where a tall, sun-faded stucco duplex faced the water. A woman with cropped silver hair and gardening gloves was hunched over a terracotta pot.
Excuse me?
Alex called. The woman straightened, wiped her hands on her shorts, and gave them a friendly squint.
Neighbors with questions?
Alex introduced them and explained lightly about the string of burglaries.
"I'm Vera,"
the woman said.
"Used to run a hardware store in Boise. Now I grow tomatoes and don't answer calls from people who say they're from my bank."
Reg nodded solemnly.
Smart woman.
"I haven't noticed anything missing, but I'll double-check my card. A few charges from that home goods website seemed high, but I assumed it was me buying a third citrus juicer."
Easy to do,
Alex said.
Let us know if anything doesn't add up.
They had just rounded the curve toward the cul-de-sac when they heard the unmistakable squawk of Polly the parrot.
"Liars! Liars and thieves!"
Gary was dragging a small cooler behind him, wearing a shirt that read, "I have mixed drinks about feelings."
"Out hunting criminals?"
he asked as Bombay ran up to sniff his sandals.
"Just asking around,"
Reg said.
"What about you, Gary? Any weird charges lately?"
Gary considered.
"There was a mysterious order for 10 pounds of peanuts, but I'm pretty sure that was drunk me."
"Case closed!"
Polly squawked.
"Polly and I are doing our own investigation,"
Gary said, patting the bird's head.
"mostly by eavesdropping."
Highly efficient,
Alex said, smiling.
"You joke, but Polly knows all the gossip. We just need a better system for recording it than my sweaty palm."
Reg gave him a look.
"You're writing tips on your palm?"
"I ran out of sticky notes."
Polly flapped and shouted.
"Needs more margaritas!"
We'll keep that in mind,
Alex said, already turning toward the next house.
Thanks for the tip, detectives.
"Silly sleuths!"
Polly called after them. Alex had just lit the citronella candle on the back patio when the front gate squeaked open and a familiar voice called out,
"I need a drink."
It was Detective Mendoza. Reg looked up from his half-prepped margarita glass.
"Are you off duty, or did you quit?"
"Still got 6 years till I get a pension,"
Mendoza said, striding across the yard and peeking into Reggie's glass.
"Please tell me you've got something stronger than that."
We've got neat tequila,
Alex said, standing to grab another glass. Bombay let out a low chuff. Mendoza dropped in the patio chair and kicked her legs out.
The coroner finally wrote the report. Ellie Parsons had a massive allergic reaction to scopolamine.
Alex blinked.
That's for nausea.
Usually, yes.
Mendoza said grimly.
In concentrated form, though, it acts as a truth serum. Too much of it, and your heart just stops.
Reg handed her a drink.
So, Someone poisoned her?
That's the thing.
Mendoza said.
We turned that restaurant upside down. Went through every bottle, ingredient, spice jar, you name it. Nothing even close. None of the kitchen staff had access to anything like it. So, unless she brought it in herself or someone spiked her water at the table, we're stuck.
Could it have been an accident?
Alex asked.
Technically.
Mendoza said, rubbing her temple.
But with this island, I'm not betting on accidents anymore.
Just then, the gate creaked again, and in came Shannon and Lucian, each holding a grotesquely large, over-decorated ice cream sundae. Shannon's had a sparkler in it. Lucian's looked like it required construction permits.
Since our date ended with a corpse,
Shannon said cheerfully.
We decided to try again. Dessert edition.
Lucien lifted his cup.
This is called the coconut avalanche. It weighs more than my laptop.
I feel like I should call the FDA.
Reg muttered. Mendoza looked up, mildly horrified.
Are those legally classified as food?
They're art,
Shannon said, taking a giant bite.
Delicious, cold, overly optimistic art.
Everyone made room, Bombay included, who tried unsuccessfully to lick Lucian's spoon. Alex poured another round and leaned over to Shannon.
Any gossip from art class?
Not much,
Shannon said, licking marshmallow fluff off her wrist.
Mostly theories about who's stealing what. But I did confirm one thing. Miss Belvedere's in that same book club Ellie went to, with her cousin Clarissa.
Alex sat up straighter.
Really?
Yep. Missed this week's meeting because of the break-in, but she's a regular.
Lucian frowned.
That's a connection, at least.
A very weak one. Half the island's in one club or another.
We've had worse leads,
Reg said. Mendoza exhaled, slouching further in her chair.
Right now, I'd settle for an obvious suspect, or a scopolamine vial somewhere in clear sight. This case has nothing. Just a dead woman, a common toxin, and zero delivery method.
Well,
Alex said, raising her glass.
Here's to hoping the island's gossip machine starts delivering.
Reg clinked glasses with her.
And to neighbors who blab.
Lucian raised his sundae like a toast.
And to ice cream that compensates for emotional damage.
Polly, the parrot, squawked in the distance, as if on cue. Somewhere nearby, Gary shouted,
"That's private mail, you nosy bird."
Everyone chuckled. The night was warm, the drinks cold, and for now they had each other, and the beginnings of something that looked like a trail. Chapter 6. Alex had just settled into the hammock with a half-finished iced coffee, and Bombay curled under her knees when Gary appeared, dragging a faded beach chair in one hand and a cooler that rattled ominously in the other. Polly the parrot perched on his shoulder, asleep.
"You saw the summit happening at Ms. Belvedere's?"
Gary asked, trying to catch his breath. Alex squinted.
Summit?
3 women, all wearing coordinated linen like it's some kind of secret society. One of them brought a basket, the other's got cupcakes too perfect to be real, and the tall one looks like she's into voodoo.
As if on cue, Polly woke up and flapped.
Cult meeting!
Alex raised an eyebrow.
Gary, are you saying Miss Belvedere joined a cult?
"I'm not saying that."
Gary replied, cracking open a soda from his cooler.
"One of them had a scarf that looked like it cost more than my last root canal. You think I'm being paranoid, but I'm telling you, something's brewing in that house. Could be witchcraft, could be real estate."
Reg stepped out with a bowl of popcorn.
Same thing on this island.
Gary pointed his beer can toward Ms. Belvedere's patio.
"Go check it out. Ms. B trusts you, and tell me later if cult's worth joining."
Polly squawked.
Too many secrets!
Alex glanced at Reg. He nodded.
Go. Take Shannon. I'll guard the popcorn.
10 minutes later, Alex and Shannon climbed Ms. Belvedere's front steps, armed with wide smiles and a mason jar of honey, for the sake of not showing up empty-handed. Miss Belvedere opened the door with a theatrical flourish, lavender scarf tied jauntily at the neck, and a fresh layer of matching lipstick.
"Well, if it isn't my 2 most favorite neighbors. You're just in time for cupcakes and tea."
She ushered them inside, where the living room had been transformed into what looked like a mid-tier baby shower. Doilies, finger sandwiches, tower of cupcakes. Miss Belvedere had even whipped out her violet-rimmed china tea set, which hadn't seen daylight since the Queen's last Jubilee. Alex's eyes landed on the assembled trio, a tall, chic blonde in Italian linen and leather, a red-haired woman in too many bangles with a booming voice arranging gift baskets on the table, and a third with silver-streaked curls and a t-shirt that read, "I bake, therefore I am."
Alex, Shannon, meet the ladies,
Miss Belvedere said, sounding delighted.
Elizabeth, Isadora, and Darla.
Elizabeth gave a crisp nod.
Charmed. I've heard about you both.
Isadora stepped forward with a warm smile and a basket woven from what looked like palm fronds.
We brought some calming teas for our dear friend. Lavender mint, hibiscus rose, and a citrus blend I call Sunset Surrender.
Catchy,
Shannon said, smiling. Darla held up a tray of cupcakes swirled in pastel icing.
And sugar, of course. We all process grief in our own ways.
I should probably hate all this fuss,
Miss Belvedere said, taking a cupcake.
But I don't.
They all laughed politely, and Alex caught the first scent of whatever tea Isadora had steeping, something earthy, floral, and ever so slightly medicinal.
We were just catching up,
Elizabeth said, folding herself elegantly into the armchair.
We didn't want Clarissa to feel alone in this, so we stopped by. But she flew back to the States yesterday with Ellie's body. Poor girl. Just dreadful.
You knew Ellie well?
Shannon asked carefully.
Only met her once,
Elizabeth said.
But Clarissa was terribly excited to show her the island. They were close, sisters in all but name.
Isadora handed Alex a small pouch of tea, tied with twine.
This one's good for nerves. Sleep too.
Alex accepted it with a polite nod.
Thanks. I might brew some tonight.
Elizabeth turned to Alex and Shannon.
You should join us, you know. The book club.
Oh, I'm not sure we'd fit in,
Alex said smoothly.
We're more the beach read variety.
Nonsense,
Elizabeth said, waving that away.
We're reading The Housemaid's Secret by Frida McFadden, practically required reading for women over 30 these days.
We already have a dozen theories,
Darla said brightly.
And I'm only halfway through.
Miss Belvedere sipped her tea.
They keep accusing each other of having housemaid energy. I'm not sure what that means, but I'm flattered to have been excluded.
Elizabeth smiled.
It's spirited. And we've got a wide range of voices. Lawyers, retirees, artists, real estate agents. We meet every Thursday afternoon. You'd both add something refreshing.
Shannon glanced at Alex.
That sounds kind of fun, actually.
Alex gave the tiniest nod.
Maybe we'll stop by next time.
Elizabeth tapped her cup once.
Lovely. Just bring strong opinions and an appetite. Isadora usually brings tea from her shop, and Darla brings her iconic cupcakes.
I rotate herbs each week,
Isadora said, straightening her basket.
It's good for balance. Everyone's a little out of sync lately.
Well, we'll see you next Thursday then,
Shannon said.
This was delightful, but we'll let you all get back to your cupcakes and conspiracies.
Not before you take one,
Darla insisted, loading a napkin with two.
The raspberry vanilla is emotionally necessary.
As they said their goodbyes, Elizabeth placed a light hand on Alex's arm.
Glad you stopped by. Truly, we've had so much tragedy lately. It's good that people still show up for each other.
Alex smiled.
We're always happy to support Miss Belvedere.
Outside, as they walked back toward the compound, Shannon leaned in.
That was weirdly charming.
And informative,
Alex murmured.
Did you notice how fast Elizabeth took control of the conversation?
She ran it like a meeting, and Isadora's got that whole island healer vibe going on.
I took the tea, but I'm not drinking it.
Shannon snorted.
Reg would make you a tinfoil hat.
You think I caught the conspiracy bug from Gary?
As they passed Gary's place, Polly screeched from the balcony,
Join the club!
Gary's voice followed a second later.
Stop inviting more people!
Shannon chuckled.
The bird knows.
Chapter 7. It was late morning and already pushing 90 degrees when Marta appeared at Alex and Reggie's front gate, holding a small cloth bag and squinting through the sunlight. Alex, still barefoot and halfway through her second morning coffee, waved her in.
Come on in. We've got fans, shade, and Reg is pretending he doesn't love my new citronella candle.
It smells like a cheap spa,
Reg said from under the patio umbrella.
but you're welcome to stay.
Marta stepped into the yard with a wry smile. She was off duty for once, dressed in denim shorts and a tank top, her hair tucked up in a messy bun.
I checked my credit card statements,
she said without preamble.
Nothing weird, just groceries, home improvement stuff, and way too many iced lattes.
Alex nodded.
That's good, at least.
But,
Marta added, pulling the cloth bag open,
someone left this on my doorstep yesterday. No note, no receipt, just sitting there in a little wicker basket with a ribbon.
She pulled out a small foil tea packet and dropped it on the table between them. Alex leaned in.
Sunset surrender,
she read aloud. Her expression shifted.
Hold on.
She disappeared into the kitchen and returned a few seconds later, holding a nearly identical tea packet, tied with twine.
This is the one Isadora gave me at Miss Belvedere's yesterday,
Alex said, placing it next to Marta's. The design matched. Same color scheme, same brand logo, a stylized mortar and pestle surrounded by vines. Reg frowned.
You sure you didn't order any tea samplers? One-click checkout is dangerous.
I've been ordering packing tape and cleaning supplies. I don't drink anything herbal unless I'm forced or being polite.
Alex tapped the label with one finger.
This looks boutique. Not mass-produced. I bet it's from her shop.
Marta raised an eyebrow.
Well, whoever left it didn't ring the bell. I only found it because I tripped over the basket trying to get the recycling out.
Reg straightened a little.
Did you see anyone? Anyone on the street when it showed up?
Nope,
she said, crossing her arms.
But I installed a doorbell camera. I didn't want to take chances after moving in, considering the history of the place.
That's smart,
Alex said.
Also,
Marta added with a pointed look,
because you two have a way of attracting trouble within a 6-house radius.
Reg tipped his glass in salute.
We call that being community-oriented.
Anyway,
Marta said, fishing her phone out of her back pocket.
I've got it synced to my phone. Want to take a look?
Alex nodded and pulled up a spare chair beside her. Reg leaned in too, Bombay wedging himself under the table like he was part of the team. Marta opened the security feed and scrolled to the previous afternoon.
Here we go. Thursday, 3:14 p.m.
On screen, her porch flickered to life, bathed in sunlight. A moment later, 2 teens zipped into view on electric scooters, ball caps low, sunglasses on, both in oversized t-shirts and cargo shorts. One had a small basket tucked under his arm.
Recognize them?
Reg asked.
Never seen them before. Definitely not from around the compound, and too young for landscaping crews.
They watched as one teen hopped off, walked to the porch, and set the basket carefully on the mat. Then casually reached for the front door handle and gave it a test twist. It didn't budge. His friend jabbed him in the ribs and pointed straight at the camera above the door. Both froze for a second, then turned on their heels and rode off like nothing had happened. Alex leaned in.
That wasn't just a delivery, that was a test.
They're scouting, dropping gifts as a cover.
Marta swore under her breath.
Cameras paid for themselves already.
They didn't actually ring the bell,
Alex said. She picked up both tea packets again and turned them over.
This might not be a friendly sample. It might be a calling card.
I just texted you the screenshot,
Marta said, tapping her phone.
Not the clearest, but hope it helps you find out who they are.
Alex's phone buzzed. She opened the image, a freeze frame of 2 boys on scooters. One was glancing toward the porch, the other straight at the camera, brows furrowed like he'd just realized he was on candid surveillance.
We'll ask around. Thanks again.
Reg leaned down to give Bombay a pat.
Come on, partner. Let's go knock on another nice old lady's door and accuse people of light trespassing.
They crossed the compound to Miss Belvedere's unit. A wind chime jingled as they knocked, and a second later the door opened to reveal her in a lavender kimono-style robe and fuzzy slippers that looked too expensive.
Oh, it's you two again,
she said, smiling faintly.
What are we sleuthing this time? Please don't tell me we've got more robberies in the compound.
We've got a photo. Wanted to see if you recognize these kids.
They stepped inside and handed her the phone. She squinted through her cat-eye reading glasses and let out a little hum.
Oh yes, that's Isadora's boys,
she said, matter of fact.
They're usually zipping around on those little scooters delivering tea for their mom.
Reg blinked.
Isadora has kids?
Twin boys. 16, maybe 17. Names start with D. Declan, Devlin. Something Irish. Nice enough, though, a little high-strung. They work for her all summer long.
So she sends them around the island with tea samples?
Alex asked. Miss Belvedere nodded.
Marketing scheme, island style. It's actually rather clever. She sends a welcome basket to new homeowners or renters who have just moved in. One of the women in our book club, Francesca, she's in real estate, keeps her updated on who's moved where.
That's specific,
Reg said slowly.
She says it builds brand loyalty,
Miss Belvedere added, with the faintest hint of eye roll.
I suppose it's working. Everyone in our group drinks her blends now, even when they taste like boiled mulch.
Alex was deep in thought.
And you're sure it's always the boys making the deliveries?
As far as I know, they do the drop-offs. Sometimes ring the bell, sometimes just leave the basket and scoot off before anyone answers.
Reg crossed his arms.
Did they bring you any recently?
Every week, a trio of herbal samples and a small jar of candied ginger, wrapped in ribbon like a tea-themed Valentine. I guess I've fallen for her marketing, too.
Chapter 8. Alex was halfway through chopping mint for Reg's cocktail when the front gate creaked open.
Unless that's the mojito fairy,
Reg called.
We've got company.
Detective Mendoza stepped onto the patio, hair wind-blown, blazer folded over one arm. Her eyes had that familiar post-shift glaze of someone who'd spent 12 hours drowning in paperwork.
I need to drink again,
she said by way of greeting.
You need a vacation,
Alex said, already grabbing a fresh glass.
I need extradition treaties,
Mendoza muttered, collapsing into a patio chair.
But yes, tequila will do.
Reg slid a sweating glass toward her.
On the house, we're running a special. 1 free drink per existential crisis.
Mendoza took a long sip. Alex slid 2 items across the patio table, the screenshot from Marta's security feed and the tea packets, one from the doorstep delivery, the other from her own collection.
We thought you'd want to see these,
Alex said. Mendoza leaned in.
What am I looking at?
Marta's security footage. Caught these 2 dropping off a tea basket, then testing her doorknob.
And the tea?
Alex tapped the foil packet.
Identical to the packet I got at Ms. B's. Both come from her book club mate Isadora's shop.
Mendoza set her glass down.
Do you know who those kids are?
Alex leaned forward, taking a sip.
Miss Belvedere recognized them. Said they're Isadora's sons, Declan and Devlin or something like that.
Mendoza, already half sunk into the patio lounger, straightened a little.
She has kids?
Twin boys. According to Ms. B, they ride scooters all over the island and deliver tea for their mom.
Mendoza narrowed her eyes and pulled out her phone.
All right, let's check this properly.
She scrolled through her contacts and tapped the screen.
Lucienne? I need you to pull up any registration records tied to a woman named Isadora. Owns a tea shop on the island. Also look for relatives, specifically twin boys. First names might be Declan or Devlin. They're teenagers.
Lucian's voice crackled faintly through speaker as he replied,
Hang on!
The pause stretched. Bombay's tail thumped once against the deck. A gecko chirped on the wall. Finally, Lucian's voice returned.
All right, I found a business license for a shop called Botanic and Brew, registered under an Isadora Brielle Morgan. Local address, no red flags on the file.
Mendoza squinted.
What about relatives?
She lists 2 dependents on her residency paperwork. Declan and Devlin Morgan, born in 2009. That's about all I've got.
That's it?
Mendoza asked. Lucian sighed.
There's nothing else on them. No passport origins, no education records, no employment history. It's like they just appeared.
Reg leaned back.
Not comforting.
Lucian exhaled.
That's the thing. We don't have access to any of international databases, unless we call mainland and ask nicely.
Reg sat up straighter.
Wait. We don't?
Mendoza shook her head, clearly irritated.
Nope. San Malvino is a self-governed island with limited data sharing agreements. We're not plugged into Interpol. There's a 6-month lag even when we do request something.
Alex raised an eyebrow.
So anyone with a shady past can come here, reinvent themselves, and the local police won't know unless they tell you?
Exactly. This island prides itself on being a clean slate. We get expats fleeing ugly divorces, bad investments, and few prisoners on the run.
Lucian's voice came back faintly.
And if someone's not on an active red list, they don't even show up.
Reg muttered.
It's like a tropical version of the Wild West.
Mendoza drained the rest of her drink and set the glass down with a thunk.
Anyway, I'll re-interview every burglary and fraud victim we've got. Ask if they ever got a tea basket, or ordered anything from Botanic and Brew, or went to Elizabeth's book club. One of those threads has to tie to another.
At the word botanic, Alex froze mid-chop, her knife suspended above a limp pile of mint leaves. Her eyes widened slightly.
Wait a second. Didn't the coroner say Ellie Parsons died from a scopolamine allergy?
Mendoza nodded.
Massive reaction. Shut her system down in under 3 minutes.
Alex set the knife down.
Scopolamine's botanical. I'm almost sure of it. I remember it from my pharmacology coursework. It's plant-derived. Something from the nightshade family.
Mendoza sat forward.
You're saying it's natural?
Yes.
Alex was already wiping her hands on a dish towel.
It's not some obscure synthetic compound. It comes from plants.
Reg gave a low whistle.
And we're sitting here with a pile of mystery tea.
Alex reached for her phone.
Let's call someone who'd know more for sure. Miss Belvedere was a botanist before she retired. She could confirm.
Please put it on speaker,
Mendoza said, grabbing the tea packet again. Alex tapped through her contacts and hit call. It rang twice before a familiar voice answered.
Alex, dear, did someone die or got robbed again?
Alex smiled faintly.
Not yet, but I need your brain. We're trying to confirm something botanical.
Ooh, go on, darling.
Alex put her on speaker.
Do you know if scopolamine is plant-based?
Miss Belvedere didn't even hesitate.
Of course. Scopolamine's a naturally occurring compound. It's found in a few plants. Most famously, Hyoscyamus niger, which we common folk call henbane.
Reg leaned forward.
You said henbane?
That's right.
Miss Belvedere replied, her voice crisp and confident.
It's in the nightshade family. Used to be called witch's herb in folklore. Causes hallucinations, compliance, amnesia. Lovely stuff if you're a 16th century poisoner.
Reg stood up.
Wait a minute. Didn't Liza tell us someone used her card to order henbane seeds?
Alex nodded.
7,000 Egyptian pounds worth.
Reg took a step back.
So that's how they're getting a fresh supply. They're using victims to fund their own tea production.
Alex shot Mendoza a look.
That's the missing link.
Then to the phone.
Thank you, Miss Belvedere. I'll call you tomorrow.
Mendoza leaned forward.
That's it. That's how Ellie died. Not from food, from the tea.
Alex exhaled.
No one in the right mind would think to check for scopolamine allergy. And the rest were dosed enough to become pliable.
Mendoza nodded.
That's why none of them remembered giving out PINs.
Mind-controlled tea. We live in a Bond movie.
Mendoza tapped on the patio table.
At least now we have a lead.
Chapter 9. Alex had just returned from her run, sweaty, satisfied, and deeply committed to not doing anything else productive, when Mendoza showed up at the gate with a folder, a scowl, and what looked like a breakfast burrito she'd forgotten to eat.
I hope that's for me,
Alex called from the porch, nodding at the burrito.
Only if you've developed a craving for mold.
Mendoza said, waving it before chucking it into the front seat of her cruiser. She followed Alex through the house and out to the back patio, where Reg was doing absolutely nothing with great determination.
Let me guess, no good news, lots of paperwork.
Bingo,
Mendoza said, dropping into a chair.
You want the update?
Do I need to get the tequila out?
Alex asked.
Not yet, I hope.
Alex poured iced tea instead. Mendoza opened the folder and fanned out a handful of handwritten notes.
I re-interviewed every single fraud and burglary victim from the past 6 weeks. Half of them are in Elizabeth's book club. The other half either got the tea promo basket and started ordering or went to Botanic and Brew and participated in tea tasting.
That's a pattern,
Reg said, sitting up straighter.
It's a freaking roadmap. Every woman who tried her tea either had sensitive info stolen or had been robbed.
And none of them remember giving out any sensitive information?
They all claimed they didn't say more than regular gossip. One woman said she felt floaty, like she'd had wine, after sample tasting in her shop, but that's about it.
Alex frowned.
That lines up with what we know about Henbane. It makes people relaxed, suggestible, compliant, and forgetful.
So no one ever suspected that the tea shop was somehow involved?
Mendoza exhaled.
None of them. If Ellie didn't have her allergic reaction, we would never find out. That one anomaly that tipped the whole thing over.
Alex leaned forward.
So now what?
That's where it gets interesting,
Mendoza said, then glanced toward the door.
Lucian has some news.
She glanced toward the front of the house.
Speak of the cybercrime devil.
Lucian entered the house with his tablet and a fresh bandage on one finger.
Cut myself peeling mango,
He said preemptively.
We're not judging.
Lucian dropped into a chair and flipped his laptop open.
I did a deep dive last night, cross-referencing UK public records, local crime boards, even niche tea enthusiast forums.
Why am I not surprised?
Reg muttered.
I found a series of unsolved cases in Surrey, outside London. Affluent neighborhood, all women. Same pattern. Unsolicited herbal tea samples, followed by minor thefts, credit card fraud, and bizarre gaps in memory. One woman filed a report after catching a strange boy trying to open her garage door. He fled on a scooter.
Alex blinked.
Scooters?
Lucian nodded.
Local paper ran a human interest piece before it all went cold. But the name on one of the tea baskets left behind? Isadora B. Morgan, same as our shop owner here.
Why wasn't she arrested?
Mendoza demanded.
She vanished. Just packed up and moved. No forwarding info. Police didn't have enough evidence to issue an international alert. Too small of a case.
So she came here. Clean slate.
Set up shop again.
Mendoza said grimly.
And built a whole community network to funnel information to her. Real estate agents, book clubs, herbal wellness nuts.
She found her target audience. Smart, vulnerable women. Lonely, bored, or just trusting. Not the type to notice something's gone missing until it's too late.
Reg stood and stretched.
So we know who she is, what she's doing, and that her sons are involved. What we don't have is proof of intent or a product sample we can test without triggering another body.
We'll go to the book club.
Mendoza raised an eyebrow.
Undercover?
Me and Shannon were already invited.
Alex reminded her.
We go to the next meeting, drink the tea, and keep our mouths shut.
You think you can resist the scopolamine tea?
Lucian asked.
I'll talk to Miss Belvedere. She might know how to counteract it or mild the effects.
Mendoza nodded slowly.
I'm game. But this has to be airtight. We can't afford another Ellie.
Alex was already typing on her phone.
Let's go talk to our resident botanist.
Miss Belvedere opened the door in a boldly printed caftan and a large sun hat that made her look like a villain from a bakery-themed soap opera.
Well,
she said, blinking against the sun,
if it isn't my favorite chaos magnets.
We have news. And a favor to ask.
I'll put the kettle on.
5 minutes later, they were seated in her aggressively orderly living room, tea cooling in delicate china cups, while Alex recapped the entire theory. Isadora, the twins, the drugged tea, and the thefts. By the end, Miss Belvedere looked more delighted than appalled.
So I was robbed by some overgrown hooligans and a woman playing Poisoner Light at a book club?
She asked, sipping her tea. Alex hesitated.
Basically, yes.
And now you want me to come out of retirement and brew an herbal counteragent to scopolamine?
We figured if anyone could, it's you.
Miss Belvedere set her teacup down with the elegance of a woman accepting a role in a heist film.
Darling, give me 2 hours and unrestricted access to my root cellar.
Reg muttered,
This island is getting weirder by the minute.
You think that now? Wait until you see what I can do with a lemon balm distillate.
By sundown, a plan was in motion. Miss Belvedere had crafted a mild herbal antidote laced with protective agents, licorice root, sage, and a barely there dose of activated charcoal that would blunt the effects of henbane without drawing suspicion. Alex and Shannon would go in first. Miss Belvedere would arrive late. Fashionably, she insisted, and act as the absent-minded elder sipping tea but keeping sharp. Lucian and Mendoza would wait nearby in a nondescript delivery van, recording the event through a mic Alex would hide in her bag.
Drink it 20 minutes before tea. It's bitter, but it'll keep your head clear,
Miss Belvedere said as she handed Alex the sealed antidote vials.
I feel like I'm in an espionage drama for PBS.
More like murder, she drank,
Reg said. Miss Belvedere cackled. Alex tucked the vials into her tote.
Thank you for everything.
You're very welcome. And for the record, I haven't had this much fun since the orchid smuggling scandal of '89.
Chapter 10. The living room of Elizabeth's villa looked like the cover of a coastal living magazine. Whitewashed walls, oversized armchairs, a tasteful arrangement of tropical plants on the windowsill, and a spread of cupcakes so artful they could double as wedding decor. A faint breeze drifted in from the patio, ruffling the curtains and giving the entire scene an effortless charm.
Ladies, welcome.
Elizabeth beamed as she opened the door.
Come in, come in. Tea is steeping, and Darla's outdone herself again with the pastries.
We're so glad you invited us,
Alex said with a warm smile. Elizabeth gestured to the coat rack and closet near the hallway.
If you don't mind, we like to keep the sitting area uncluttered. Just pop your bags in here. We'll be in the parlor.
Alex hesitated for half a second before placing her tote on the shelf. The hidden mic, disguised as a lipstick tube, was already live and blinking faintly inside. As they moved into the living room, Shannon leaned in and whispered,
I've never been to a parlor.
Alex grinned tightly.
That's what rich people call their living room.
The room buzzed with relaxed chatter. Women lounged in oversized chairs with porcelain cups in hand, discussing everything from Pilates to property taxes. Darla floated by with a tray of lemon mint cupcakes in her signature t-shirt reading, I bake, therefore I am. Elizabeth handed out fresh teacups and began the meeting with flair.
As you know, this week we're discussing The Housemaid's Secret by Frida McFadden. Quite the thriller, isn't it?
There were nods, a few exaggerated gasps, and one dramatic eye roll from someone near the ficus. Shannon sipped the tea and exchanged a glance with Alex. The taste was mild, herbal, lavender, maybe a touch of mint, but there was an odd bitterness at the back of her tongue. Not unpleasant, just noticeable. Miss Belvedere hadn't arrived yet. Alex leaned toward Shannon.
Still feel like yourself?
Mentally, yes. My physical self feels like it doesn't belong.
5 minutes later, the front door opened again, and Miss Belvedere breezed in wearing a scarf that looked like it had survived the Met Gala.
Apologies,
she said, removing her sunglasses with a flourish.
I was detained by a stubborn bloom in my solarium. You know how violets are.
You look radiant,
Elizabeth said, motioning her to an empty armchair.
I don't need your empty-handed flattery, honey. Give me some lemon tart.
Miss Belvedere quipped, settling in. They discussed the book for about 20 minutes. Elizabeth facilitated the conversation with the ease of someone who'd chaired far too many committee meetings. Darla giggled at all the right moments. The tea kept flowing. Then, subtly, the tone shifted. Isadora leaned forward with a warm smile.
So, Francesca,
she said, turning to the real estate agent on the far end of the sofa.
How's the new beachfront sale going? I heard your buyer flew in from Dubai. Cash deal.
Francesca nodded, clearly pleased.
Closed yesterday. A smooth transaction for once.
That's lovely.
Isadora said, stirring her tea.
And the commission must have been delicious.
There were laughs. Then Isadora turned to the group.
It's so fascinating, isn't it, hearing how everyone's lives evolve? Who's building where? Who's upgrading their security? Whose husband got a promotion?
Shannon coughed lightly, and Alex nearly kicked her shin under the coffee table. Isadora looked at them, all honey and inquiry.
And you two. You're new to the group. What brings you to San Malvino?
Shannon smiled, syrup sweet.
Well, my father wanted me to get out of Geneva for a while, live the simple life. Family money can be stifling.
Alex added,
My husband's family owns cattle ranches across Texas. We came here to decompress after his father passed and left us everything. Let the lawyers and managers deal with the bulls.
A few women blinked.
Texas?
Isadora repeated.
Generational cattle farms.
Alex said breezily. There were polite laughs. Isadora tilted her head, then turned her attention to Miss Belvedere.
Did you ever recover from that horrible burglary?
She asked, her voice soft with concern.
Oh, barely,
Miss Belvedere said, sipping her tea like it was champagne.
But it was only the tip of the iceberg. Most of my heirlooms are in a storage cellar below my greenhouse. Hidden trapdoor under the rug. No one will guess to look.
More polite laughter. But Shannon caught the flicker of something in Isadora's eyes. Alex shifted in her seat, murmured something about needing the restroom, and slipped away down the hall. She passed the hallway mirror, forced a relaxed expression, then opened the closet door just a sliver. Inside, 2 teenage boys crouched beside the row of handbags. One held a portable scanner and was running credit cards through it one by one. The other had out a small key imprinting kit, pressing keys into soft putty and labeling each one with painter's tape. The mic lipstick lay undisturbed at the bottom of Alex's tote, still blinking. She carefully closed the door without a sound and returned to the living room.
Everything all right?
Elizabeth asked as Alex resumed her seat.
Just perfect,
she said, taking another sip. After another 10 minutes of book discussion and casual inquiries into vacation plans and security systems, the meeting wrapped. Cupcakes were packed into to-go boxes, and tea samples were handed out like party favors.
We do hope you'll come back,
Elizabeth said warmly at the door.
We love fresh perspectives.
Shannon smiled.
We're hooked already.
They walked out slowly, chatting about the ending of the book and Darla's icing techniques until they rounded the hedge and reached the curb. A delivery van across the road hummed quietly. The side door slid open. Lucian waved them in. Mendoza turned from the driver's seat.
Well?
She asked.
We got them. The boys are working out of the closet. Credit card skimmer, key molds, the whole kit.
And we got it on mic,
Reg added from the front seat.
High-quality audio. 1 hour of raunchy teenage jokes.
Idiots,
Mendoza muttered.
The women didn't look overdosed,
Shannon added.
But it's just enough to make people loosen up. Like 1 glass of wine too many. Everyone was chatty, happy, open.
Except Isadora. She's not drinking. She pours, but she never sips.
Mendoza nodded slowly.
All right then. We're ready.
Lucian grinned.
Time for the sting.
Chapter 11. The following afternoon, Miss Belvedere arrived at Alex and Reg's with a glint in her eye and a gladiolus tucked behind her ear like a dagger. She'd come straight from her weekly hair appointment, and the cloud of violet hair was extra voluminous, as if she were preparing for war, which, in a sense, she was.
Ready to bait a burglar?
She asked, settling into the patio chair like she belonged to MI6. Alex handed her a cold hibiscus spritzer.
We were born ready. Well, Reg was. I was gently conditioned over 3 cases.
Mendoza, already stationed on the far end of the patio with her notepad, got straight to business.
All right, so here's the setup.
Lucian opened his laptop on the coffee table and spun it around to show a digital floor plan of Alex and Reggie's home. Bombay lifted his head and gave it a polite sniff.
We'll be parked 2 houses down,
Lucian said.
Reg stays here with the dog, concealed in the broom closet. Miss Belvedere, you'll call Isadora this evening and tell her you're going to a spa tomorrow with Alex and Shannon.
Miss Belvedere nodded eagerly.
Oh, I'll ham it up. I'll even mention I might leave the house unlocked because my plants get fussy when the humidity shifts.
Reg raised an eyebrow.
You want them to break in for ficus maintenance?
She waved him off.
Let me work my magic. It probably doesn't seem that way, but botanists can be fierce.
Mendoza flipped a page in her notebook.
Ms. Belvedere, please let's stick to the script. I don't have enough manpower to handle 2 stings and an arrest all at once, and not enough homegrown sleuths for that matter. You tell Isadora you'll be taking your leftover tea to the spa and would hate to wait for the next delivery. You'll be away for 3 days. Don't forget to mention, very casually, that Alex's husband and Shannon's boyfriend are going deep-sea fishing while you're all away. That should convince Isadora the houses will be empty.
All right, Angela.
Miss Belvedere sighed.
I'll do as you say. You're the only one with the badge here.
Lucian coughed a little and rubbed the badge on his belt, but nobody noticed.
Perfect. Let's hope Alex's place is their first move. They won't miss on the cattle airs.
Reg gave Bombay a pat.
What do you think, partner? You up for a little action?
Bombay barked and excitedly thumped his tail. Mendoza looked across the table.
Colonel, just in case, do you still have your carrying permit?
Reg didn't miss a beat.
All I need to carry is my fur missile.
Lucian choked on his iced coffee. Alex leaned over.
Don't give him ideas. He's already tried to design tropical tactical vests for the dog.
That evening, Miss Belvedere made the call with a flair.
Isadora, darling. How are you? Oh, I'm just splendid. Alex and Shannon invited me to a little spa thing tomorrow. Isn't that sweet? They even booked the hot stone package.
A pause.
Oh, yes, I'm terribly excited. And I thought, I'll bring some tea with me. You know that citrus lavender blend? It would fit right with the mood. But I'm on my last packet and would hate to come back to a tealess house. Maybe you could send some more over while I'm gone?
Another pause. Then,
oh, thank you, darling. Tell the boys to leave it in the shade.
She winked at the group, mouthing hooked.
Yes, I hope we'll have fun,
she added breezily.
Girls in the spa, their fellas out fishing. To each their own, as they say. The compound will be half empty with all of us gone. Thank you, darling. I see you at the next book club meeting.
She hung up, pleased.
She took the bait. She said she'd send a little something extra since I've had such a week.
The next morning dawned bright and humid, with the kind of heat that made sidewalks sweat. Alex and Shannon made a show of carrying overnight bags to the car. Ms. Belvedere packed like she was leaving for a world tour. Reg tucked himself in Bombay in the broom closet. The retired K9 was not impressed, but remained calm. Through his earpiece, Lucian's voice buzzed.
They're on the move. 2 scooters. ETA, 2 minutes.
Reg flexed his fingers.
Copy that.
Bombay gave a low woof and repositioned his front paws. Outside, the scooters approached, buzzing like oversized insects. Mendoza, crouched behind a hedge with binoculars, watched as the teens hopped off.
They're going in,
she murmured into the earpiece.
Front door.
Reg heard the soft click of the lock being tested, then another click, quicker this time. The door creaked open. Light footsteps entered. From the hallway came a whisper.
You take the kitchen. I'll check the bedrooms.
Reg opened the closet door and motioned to Bombay.
Go.
Bombay launched silently down the hallway. One of the teens let out a surprised yelp as the dog skidded around the corner.
Oh, shit!
There was a crash, the sound of wicker hitting the floor, and a terrified shriek.
Get off me! It's a wolf!
Reg emerged with his phone up, recording as Bombay stood on top of one of the boys, growling just enough to keep the other one glued to the wall. Mendoza burst in seconds later, weapon drawn. Lucian followed, snapping the handcuffs.
Declan and Devlin Morgan,
Mendoza said, hauling one to his feet.
You are under arrest for attempted burglary and credit card fraud.
What credit card fraud?
One stammered. Mendoza pointed to the lipstick mic on the table.
Remember seeing this little thing? We made you a podcast.
Reg cracked a smile.
Smile for the cameras, boys.
Lucian muttered,
You're not supposed to enjoy this, you know? Then you've clearly never spent the morning in the broom closet with a working dog eager to get unretired.
2 hours later, everyone regrouped at the police station. Isadora had been arrested at the tea shop, caught off guard by Mendoza herself.
She went full soap opera, collapsed dramatically onto a barrel of peppermint chamomile, and called it a frame job.
And her sons?
Alex asked.
Already flipped. One of them cried. The other gave us access to their phones. There's footage, lists, even copies of credit cards and keys. It's all there.
They're minor pawns. She ran the con.
Shannon leaned back in her chair.
So what now?
We question her and prep for charges. Multiple counts of fraud, burglary, and reckless endangerment. Plus possession of a controlled substance. Henbane's illegal for personal use in high concentrations.
Reg folded his arms.
This was a high-class con. I'll give her that.
Exactly. Classic social engineering with tea and cupcakes.
Miss Belvedere crossed her legs and sipped her celebratory iced coffee.
I must say, this was the most satisfying book club experience I've ever had.
Chapter 12. The only interview room at the San Malvino police station didn't keep up the island vibe. The air smelled faintly of copier paper and stale coffee, the walls were an uninspiring beige, and the lone overhead light buzzed just enough to irritate without warranting maintenance. There were 2 chairs, one slightly more comfortable than the other, and a table that had seen better decades. Mendoza preferred it that way. Strip away the comfort, she said, and the truth had nowhere to hide. Isadora Brielle Morgan sat across the table uncuffed but fidgety. She looked tired, like the performance had finally cracked. No linen wrap dress, no bangles and rings, no heeler flare, just an orange jumpsuit with an old stain on its sleeve. Mendoza slid into the chair opposite her and placed a sealed evidence bag on the table. Inside were the familiar foil tea packets.
You know why we're here,
Mendoza said. Isadora gave a tired laugh.
I assume it's not to ask for a discount.
You poisoned over a dozen women.
Poisoned is a stretch. Microdosed.
Mendoza's brow furrowed.
Ellie Parsons is dead.
Isadora's expression flattened.
That wasn't supposed to happen.
She had an allergic reaction to scopolamine. The coroner said it hit her system like a freight train.
I didn't know,
Isadora said softly.
It's extremely rare. Almost no one reacts that way. It's statistically insignificant.
You're talking about a human being here, not a number.
She wasn't part of the plan.
Mendoza leaned in slightly.
And the plan was what? Get women comfortable? Extract information? Rob them blind?
Not all of them,
Isadora said, looking genuinely offended.
Only the ones who could afford it.
Oh, how generous.
I chose targets who had real wealth. What's few missing heirlooms for them? I never hurt anyone.
You don't get to say that. You dosed people without consent, traumatized them, stole from them.
There was a long pause. Isadora glanced up.
Are you a mother?
Does it matter?
Yes, because if you're not, you can't understand.
Mendoza closed the folder.
Try me.
Isadora leaned back slightly, eyes on the ceiling for a moment like she was unspooling something from memory.
I was a talented chemist. Pharmacology. Early 20s, 2 published studies, a patent pending. My career was looking good. I worked in R&D for a pharmaceutical company in Surrey. Nothing too glamorous, but solid.
She looked back at Mendoza.
Then I got pregnant with twins. My husband left before they were born, said he couldn't handle the responsibility. He wanted adventures to live his life, not care for 2 babies.
Mendoza didn't respond, just watched.
I could have ended the pregnancy, you know, but I still chose to have them. Took night shifts, part-time contracts, did freelance chemical analysis when I could. And all around me, salespeople, people who couldn't spell half the compounds I was designing, were getting lump Christmas bonuses and client trips to Rome, while I was stitching together daycare and working out of coat closets.
She gave a bitter smile.
One day, I snapped. I decided I wasn't going to scrape by while everyone else cashed in on my work.
And this led you to poisoning tea?
Mendoza asked. Isadora gave a slow nod.
I started a wellness business. It made sense. I knew how compounds behaved in the body. I knew how herbs interacted. I even did it ethically at first. Real blends, stress relief, gut health, sleep support.
She leaned forward now.
Then I joined a neighborhood book club. Thought it'd be good networking, relaxing. But what I found was a gold mine. These women weren't just reading books, they were bleeding their secrets. Who was remodeling? Who was cheating? Who had a trust fund? And no one was watching what they said.
So you drugged them?
Mendoza said flatly.
I enhanced their openness.
Mendoza snorted.
You mean you dosed them with scopolamine?
Microdosed,
Isadora said sharply.
Not enough to cause harm, just enough to relax inhibitions.
Relax inhibitions,
Mendoza repeated.
Is that what you call it when someone blurts out their PIN code over lemon cookies?
It was safe,
Isadora insisted.
It was subtle. Most people didn't even notice.
Ellie Parsons noticed,
Mendoza said. Isadora didn't respond.
Did you ever feel guilty? Even once?
A long silence followed.
I felt conflicted, but I kept thinking, if this works, if I can just pull it off a little longer, I'll have enough to get us out. My boys could start fresh, no more debt, no more scraping by.
So you taught your teenage sons how to break into homes and skim credit cards?
I taught them to survive,
she snapped.
To think critically, to notice details. I kept them off the streets, kept them close.
You turned them into criminals.
I gave them purpose.
Mendoza picked up the folder again, flipped to the photo of the book club spread, the china cups, the cupcakes, the basket of teas.
Did Elizabeth know?
No, she still doesn't. She just liked that I'm always around. I made myself indispensable. People trust you when you always give something free and don't ask for anything in return.
You didn't ask? All right, you just took. Those women trusted you.
There's no such thing as trust between strangers. Don't be naive,
she said after a beat.
It's only blood relatives you can trust.
Yeah,
Mendoza said, voice cold.
And now your closest blood relatives are going to jail.
They'll be fine,
Isadora said quietly.
They're smart. They'll recover.
Mendoza closed the folder and stood.
You've convinced yourself that you're some kind of twisted Robin Hood. That poisoning people for information and robbing them blind was noble because you're a mother.
She shook her head.
But you weren't protecting your boys. You were using them.
Isadora's jaw tightened. She turned to go, then paused at the door.
You know what's sad? You could have built something real with that brain, that talent. You could have actually done something good, helped people.
I did help people,
Isadora murmured. Mendoza didn't turn around.
No, Isadora. You helped yourself.
She walked out, letting the door click softly shut behind her. In the hallway, Lucian leaned against the wall, holding a cup of vending machine coffee that smelled faintly of powdered milk and sweetener.
She talked?
He asked.
Plenty. Not a word of remorse.
She's going to cooperate?
She thinks she already has,
Mendoza said. They walked toward the squad room in silence.
You ever wonder,
Lucien said finally,
how many people like her are out there, smart enough to create something amazing, bitter enough to try?
Yeah, all the time.
They stepped outside. The sky outside was already starting to turn gold. Chapter 13. Bongos was loud in the way only a tropical beach bar could be on a Friday evening. Steel drums, drunk guests, someone attempting to sing Jimmy Buffett off-key in the back. Alex leaned back into her bar stool, the ocean breeze tugging at her ponytail as a server dropped off another round of calamari and what was allegedly a watermelon mojito, but tasted suspiciously like bubblegum. Reg, beside her, raised his glass.
To the end of poison tea and pickpocket parlor games.
To Bombay,
Shannon added, lifting her cocktail.
Island's fur missile and national hero.
Bombay, currently sprawled under the table like a war general at rest, thumped his tail once before returning to munching his third crab cake.
I still can't believe they let you order him an all-you-can-eat side menu.
Alex said, eyeing the plate of fried fish and crab cakes slowly disappearing beneath the table.
He earned it. Didn't even slobber on the perps. That's professionalism.
Meanwhile,
Mendoza said, swirling her glass of club soda,
Isadora and her spawn are being packed up and sent off.
They're being extradited to the UK?
Shannon asked. Mendoza nodded.
Figured let their own courts handle it. She doesn't deserve a prison cell with a sea view. And the boys will face juvenile proceedings there. I made the call this morning.
Alex raised an eyebrow.
Isadora say anything on the way out?
Nothing printable. She tried to throw a paper cup at Lucian and accused me of destroying her legacy.
Reg snorted.
What legacy? Coastal herbal grifting?
Miss Belvedere appeared behind them with a fresh drink and a ridiculous hat that made her look like she was auditioning for a reboot of Murder. She wrote, Island Edition.
Elizabeth's beside herself,
she said, taking the empty seat next to Alex.
Said she's canceling book club until further notice. Darla's baking her grief. 6 pies in 24 hours.
Shannon perked up.
What kind of pies?
Emotional pies,
Miss Belvedere said.
I suspect key lime and thinly veiled rage.
Alex chuckled.
I mean, fair. You think they'll ever restart it?
Eventually,
Miss Belvedere said, swirling her cocktail.
But not until they stop checking their closets for teenage burglars.
Maybe we should start our own,
Reg offered, half teasing.
A book club where no one ends up dosed or robbed.
Mendoza rolled her eyes.
If you two keep stumbling into crimes like this, I'm joining an AA meeting before I sign up for another club.
Lucian appeared just in time to catch that line and dropped into the seat next to Shannon with a grin.
We could read mysteries and rate them by accuracy.
Oh, I love that. 1 star. If the detective wears high heels and never sweats.
I don't know,
Alex said thoughtfully.
We've all done some ill-advised things in nice shoes.
I once chased a purse snatcher in wedge sandals. Didn't catch him, but I looked amazing failing.
Gary appeared out of nowhere, dragging a chair with one hand and holding a suspiciously full coconut in the other. Polly flapped dramatically onto the backrest and let out a deafening squawk.
Who stole the seeds?
Reg glanced up.
Please tell me that's not your new greeting.
It's a relevant question,
Gary said, plopping down with theatrical flair.
I heard you all cracked a mind control tea cult.
Alex tilted her head.
That's, not entirely inaccurate.
I knew it,
Gary said smugly.
I told Polly it wasn't a knitting circle.
It was a setup.
Polly screeched.
Isadora's a lizard.
Miss Belvedere took a sip of her drink.
See, this is why I love my neighbors, always so blunt.
The conversation drifted into laughter, banter, and bad impressions of the twins yelling about wolves. Bombay got a standing ovation, while still under the table, and Shannon made Lucian promise to try one of Darla's grief pies next week, preferably the chocolate banana apology tart. By the time the sun slipped below the horizon and the last toast was raised, the table felt like something stitched together from chaos, community, and very stubborn affection. Alex glanced around the table, Reg teasing Mendoza, Gary whispering conspiracies to Polly, Miss Belvedere pulling a napkin from her purse with all the elegance of a royal exit, and smiled. The case was closed, the tea was tossed, the culprits were caught, and for now, San Malvino was quiet again. Just quiet enough to hear the wind, the waves, and Polly shouting one last time,
Drink at your own risk.
This has been Death by Henbane Tea, a hilarious, feel-good, cozy mystery, Book 4 in the Island Whodunnit series, written by Tess Marlowe, narration produced and directed by Maureen Gazarian, audio created using 11 Labs multi-voice narration technology. Thank you for listening.